We've been covering the band instruments that are often played here on the stage. Not everybody knows the history of these instruments, how they began, what they grew out of, what kinds of stringed instruments that came before them. And so we've been doing that. We've talked about the fiddle, we've talked about the stand-up bass or the double bass, we've talked about the dobro and the mandolin, and now we're going to talk about tonight about the guitar. You know, the guitar. It's probably one of the most familiar and most used of the instruments because almost every kid wants to play a guitar, you know. And if he's in a youth group in a church, usually the youth pastor always is playing that guitar, whether in church or out around the campfire or something. So we know the guitar, but do you know kind of how it started? Well, the first predecessor of the guitar was probably a flute-like instrument that first appeared, can you believe this, 3,500 to 3,200 BCE in southern Mesopotamia. By the 15th and 16th centuries, a lot later, musicians in Spain changed the lute into the familiar curve shape that we now associate with the guitar. These guitars, known as Baroque guitars, effectively replaced the lute as the go-to stringed instrument for musicians from about 1600 to 1750. Now, further changes, such as 5 courses of gut strings and movable frets, made these instruments easier to play. Spanish guitars of the 1790s had the standard body and 6 courses of strings like the modern guitar, but they were a little smaller. Well, Spanish musician and guitar maker Antonio Torres Jurado in the mid-1800s created the guitar style that's used in guitars today. His guitars featured a broad body, a thin belly, with an increased curve at the waist. He replaced the wooden tuning pegs with machined heads. His guitars with fan-braced wooden struts inside gave them their distinctive rich tone. Influential Spanish guitarist Andres Segovia established Torres' classic guitar as a concert instrument. He penned complex musical compositions that we now identify as classical guitar. Well, about the same time, Europeans brought a steel-stringed version of the Spanish guitar to America. In America, the modern guitar took on a new shape and a new place in history with the invention of the flat top, arch top, and modern electric guitar. The flat top acoustic guitar remains the most popular form of the guitar, nearly 2 centuries after its invention by German-born American guitar maker Christian Frederick Martin. Martin replaced the old-fashioned fan bracing with X bracing to help the guitar body handle the stress of the modern steel strings, which had posed a problem for that old Torres style of guitar. Well, the tight steel strings of the flat top also required the guitarist to change their playing style and use picks more often, which fundamentally changed the type of music played. For example, melodies on classical guitars are precise and delicate, while steel strings and picks create bright chord-driven music. The common use of picks also triggered the evolution of the pick guard, now seen below the sound hole of most of the top guitars. Many attribute Orville Gibson with the creation of the arch top guitar. This guitar features F-holes, arch top and back, and adjustable bridge, which increases the instrument's tone and volume. Gibson created guitars had bodies similar to cellos, which helped them produce a louder sound. Jazz and country musicians quickly embraced these guitars. And that's the old story. You know, not too exciting, but you've heard a lot of great guitarists. But probably one that kind of drove this guitar love and its music to our hearts in this part of the country was a guy just over the mountains here, just over the ridge. And you probably know him as Doc Watson.